Hi, I'm your host, Chris Chappell, and in this video, we're going to explore the ideate stage of the targeted innovation process. Ideate is the time to start playing around with some ideas and possibilities that can address your challenge, and then select the best ideas that emerge. And playing around is really how you should be thinking about this stage. You're not going to worry just yet about whether your ideas are workable, or what they might cost, or how long they might take. Your boss won't be looking over your shoulder to tell you something is impossible, or that it was tried in the past it didn't work. You want to be open to all sorts of possibilities when you ideate. This is your chance to daydream a little. Start by framing your problem or challenge as a question. Instead of saying, "we don't have," or "we won't," or "we can't," recast your challenge as a question. How might we? Or how to? Or what might be all the ways? Our brains don't like unanswered questions. Give it a question rather than an obstacle, and your brain will start working overtime to answer it. Once you have your question, it's time to generate ideas. The most familiar technique for generating lots of new creative ideas is brainstorming. And brainstorming is a great approach. The only trouble is, if it's not done properly, brainstorming can shut down rather than foster innovation.
There are a few misconceptions about brainstorming worth clearing up. One is that it's an unstructured free-for-all. But in fact, effective brainstorming sessions have clear rules as well as a facilitator to keep the process working and ensure that the flow of ideas is not hijacked by the loudest or the most powerful voice in the room. Another misconception is that there's a single best way for people to come up with ideas. Not true. Some people need quiet time on their own to do their best thinking on a problem. Others are at their best in an active, high-energy environment with many ideas being tossed around. So make sure you provide both quiet and active environments for idea generation to accommodate both types of participants. Sometimes people think that when silly ideas emerge, you need to stop the process. Actually, what often happens is that if you give a group a specific quota, like producing 30 to 50 ideas, the first third are the usual and expected ideas. Second third are the weird, wild, and impractical ideas. And the final third are the interesting and innovative ideas that lead to breakthroughs. So be sure to set a minimal quota so that people get to and have to push past the expected and the wow ideas to start finding some new solutions. The final misconception is that you should never judge an idea during an idea generation session. In fact, for truly innovative ideas to emerge, it's okay to have a discussion, debate, and pushback. Just be sure to finish with the idea generation first before moving on to the feedback and discussion. Get all those ideas out on the table or on the whiteboard before picking them apart. Brainstorming can be a great way to generate wonderful, highly creative ideas, but you need the right structure and process in place to get the results you want.
So how should you facilitate your brainstorming session? Once you've framed your problem as a question, don't spring it on the participants when they walk into the room. Give people time to think about the challenge individually before the session. Our brains need time to work through a challenge, even subconsciously when we're working on other things. Make sure you or the session facilitator provides a clear structure for the session. Having clear rules and expectations will allow everyone to participate equally and will avoid groupthink. And finally, after some idea generation, give participants time to silently capture their ideas on paper or sticky notes. Make sure you're being open to people who might need some quiet time, as well as those who benefit most from the intensity of the group activity. Brainstorming might be the most familiar approach to generating new ideas, but it's certainly not the only one. Another tool you can try is called visual connections.
One of the reasons we like visual connections as a tool for idea generation is that it takes people out of the usual mindset they have when they try to address a challenge. And it helps them make some new and often surprising kinds of connections and associations. We know that great ideas often come from connecting two existing things together in an unusual way or unexpected way. Yet when we try to solve problems, it's too easy for our brains to go along a familiar path. Visual connections forces us to bring in new ideas and concepts into our thinking patterns, and it can produce some really powerful results.
At the start of your visual connection session, hand each participant a worksheet with the challenge statement in the form of a question at the top. Then, share your first image. After each image is displayed, ask participants to write down in the left column of the worksheet any sensory impressions, words, or reactions that come to mind when seeing the picture. After they've had time to do this, do the same with the next picture, and then the next, until you've shown all of them. Next, ask your group members to look at the problem statement and what they wrote for each picture. Based on what they wrote, ask them to create an idea or two and write the connection in the right-hand column. These ideas don't necessarily have to be practical. It's okay if they're a little crazy or funny, and they probably will be. Finally, for each photo, ask the group to call out individually their impressions and the connections they made. Write them down on a flip chart, and then have everyone build on the ideas of others and generate more connections. Give people some quiet time to do this as well. At the end of the visual connection session, see what types of new, unexpected, and often highly innovative ideas emerge from the process. Whether you've used structured brainstorming, visual connections, or some other idea generation tool, the good news is that you will have generated many new ideas from the process. The challenge is to narrow down your list, get rid of the duplicates, and see which ideas fit together.
The stumbling block in innovation leadership isn't lack of new ideas. It's choosing which idea to pursue and dedicating the time and energy into refining those ideas and driving them through the organization. You don't want to choose the wrong idea, and unless you have infinite resources, you can't work on too many ideas at once. Some organizations have a formal process for deciding which ideas they will invest in. That can work well, but again, if the idea isn't polished enough, then others can miss the potential value. The best innovation leaders make sure they select just a few promising ideas and then develop, polish, and test the concepts before they put them in front of others for evaluation.
With a long list of ideas, you need to narrow them down. Use a group technique called starring or dot voting. A great way to do this is to ask people to read through the list on their own. As they do this, they write down the ideas they like on their piece of paper. Once everyone has read through all the ideas and jotted down their favorites, have them mark their selections with a dot or star. Next, combine only duplicates. It may be tempting to look for broad themes or to cluster similar ideas together. Don't do it. Let the ideas stand on their own. Only group clear duplicates. If you overcluster more than 3 or 4 ideas together, you'll probably lose the richness and raw power of the original ideas. Finally, for each star idea or cluster, have someone from the group restate it in as much detail as possible. Select someone else to write it down and encourage everyone to contribute in describing each idea clearly. Once you've starred, combined, and restated your ideas, it's time for group discussion. Begin the conversation with clear rules so that people don't shoot down one another's ideas. And remember, your job as innovation leader is to make sure the group is looking for novelty rather than falling back into safe, proven, or conventional ideas. At this point, it will usually be clear which ideas are your standouts. These are the ideas you'll be crafting and refining in the next stage. You might think that coming up with the idea is the hard work, but in fact, the real work of innovation is just beginning.